All right. Is it time, do you think, to reframe the energy debate? According to my next guest, absolutely. The Australian newspaper's contributing economics editor Judith Sloan has written brilliantly today about the energy crisis undergirding the military crisis in the Ukraine. According to Professor Sloan, Western Europe's reliance on Russian natural gas and tense negotiations over the new Nord Stream pipeline are significant factors in the current standoff. Judith Sloan joins me now from Queensland. Thank you for your time, Judith. As I said, terrific piece in the Australian today. Explain, if you can, just a little bit of history here about how energy and this Nord Stream pipeline fit into the current situation in the Ukraine.
Well, thank you very much, Peter, for having me on. Yes, look, I mean, what the point I was trying to make is that I think when you look at the analysis of a lot of renewable energy, green energy policies, it fails to take into account what you might regard as the foreign policy implications, and they are very important. And what has happened in Germany, extraordinarily, I might add, is that they have decided on the one hand to phase out their nuclear power plants, some of which are quite new, by the way. They've also have very ambitious emissions reduction targets and want to phase out coal-fired power quite quickly. But the end result has been this increasing reliance on gas. And where does that gas come from? It essentially comes from Russia. So basically at the moment, the German grid is being powered by 40% Russian gas. Now you think that one through, Germany, Russia, not particular allies, but Russia has the potential to basically put its foot on the throat of the German economy by reducing the flow, increasing the prices. Now, in the meantime, a pipeline has been built directly from Russia to Germany. The old, in fact, Soviet-era pipelines go through the Ukraine, and Russia thinks it would be better if it didn't. They pay a toll to the Ukraine government, and there is suggestion that there might be some leakage, shall I put it that way. And that, I think, represents an extraordinarily complex foreign policy dilemma. There was a great piece that Alex Downer wrote a few days ago, actually, about this, which is when you think about these things, you've got to think about the geography, you have to think about the politics, and you have to think about the economics. And the trouble is not much of the analysis integrates those three things.
We've got about discussing energy forward policies, energy in the context of climate change. We don't often talk about energy security enough. I know Jim Molan has talked about fuel security. Do you think we take it for granted here in Australia, energy security?
Well, absolutely. And I mean, I think there are a whole lot of dimensions to this. And of course, it's very important to think of energy well beyond electricity. Now, electricity, of course, is important. Electricity accounts for, I think, about 30% of emissions. But in terms of energy use, petroleum products in particular are very important, and petroleum products are actually critical to defence. So the government actually, I think, has been onto this. So they increased the reserve supplies, the strategic reserve supplies. I do understand that they are in America, which is a bit of a worry. The government acted quite nicely in that it secured a lower oil price than is currently the case. Because bear in mind, Australia is quite energy rich, but not particularly good on crude oil. And that's, of course, a critical component of the energy mix. They're also in the process of providing subsidies to keep some of the refineries going, because, of course, if we don't have any refineries, we become very vulnerable. So I think they've tried to put together a package, which is not just outright handouts, it's a sort of measured subsidy effect. So we're making sure we're giving money to the refineries to stay open rather than just sort of rake in taxpayer dollars. But I think the government has been aware of this. But Peter, think about it. There's so little media attention paid to this, and Jim Molan must feel incredible frustration about this. And I mean, I guess another point is that from the point of view of energy poor countries, we must look like a pretty good target, because, you know, we're very rich in terms of coal, we're very rich in terms of natural gas, we're very have a lot of uranium, for example. So I think, you know, it's a case for let us integrate some of these policies rather than the sort of green activist line that we need to go net zero by 2050. Just think through that actually is not just about the economics. It's not just about living standards. It's also about foreign policy.
Spot on so many fronts, and you are underscoring my point at the top of the show, Judith Sloan. I didn't hear a question about any of this in the press club yesterday with the Prime Minister. I can't recall one with the opposition leader last week. This is where I think the media's attention would be better placed. Brilliant as always. Thank you for your time.